the Civil Affairs Bureau. After a grueling 3-hour wait, I shot out a message. Gloria, let's break up. Just as I stepped out of the bureau, I bumped into my boss, Nancy. Nancy, are you getting married too today? Gary, would you marry me? Then I recalled the message Gloria just sent me. Gary, stop messing around. Charles really is sick, just wait, we can get our certificate in a couple of days. I looked at Nancy and replied with a smile. Sure. Today was supposed to be the day Gloria and I got our marriage certificate. After waiting in the bureau for 3 hours, I finally got through to her phone. But it was answered by her ex, Charles. Where's Gloria? She's cooking for me. Gary, what's up? Cooking? With a sarcastic smirk, I realized that in 2 years with Gloria, I never knew she could cook. Then I heard Gloria's voice on the other end. Gary, Charles almost fainted today. His family isn't around. I need to take care of him. I chuckled bitterly. Fainting right on the day we're supposed to get our certificate. How convenient. I clenched my phone. Gloria, just tell me, are you coming to get the certificate today? Gary, I can't leave right now. Waiting a couple of days won't hurt, she answered, sounding impatient. I was about to speak when I heard Charles shout from the other end. It's hot. The call abruptly ended. I could already picture Gloria fussing over her ex. Ever since Charles came back, even a slight frown from him would have Gloria breaking apart with concern. I never got that treatment. In Gloria's eyes, I was supposed to be mature and strong, someone who didn't need pampering. She never realized that I was just a regular guy, someone who also needed her care. My heart twinged a bit, but it wasn't as painful as I imagined. Listening to the dial tone, I took a deep breath and sent a sarcastic, exhausted message. Gloria, let's break up. Enough is enough. If Gloria wants to comfort her ex, I'd let them be. Stepping out of the bureau, I spotted Nancy standing by the door, my boss, the CEO of F Corp. I paused for a second. As her secretary, I didn't know this was on her schedule today. Nancy, are you getting married today too? Nancy glanced at me with her dark eyes and gave a lukewarm emichem. Congratulations, I said. I wanted to ask why she was marrying alone, but remembered it wasn't my place to pry into my boss's matters as her secretary. So I held back. Nancy smiled slightly. Gary, want to marry me? What a coincidence. Did Nancy get stood up too? Her voice calm. Since we're both single right now, why not just marry each other? I recalled Gloria's text. Gary, stop messing around. Charles really is sick, just wait, we can get our certificate in a couple of days. I smiled at Nancy and answered, sure. In less than 10 minutes, I was holding a freshly printed marriage certificate. Looking at our photo on it, I wondered if I acted too impulsively. What second thoughts? Nancy asked dryly. I pressed my lips and returned her question. Nancy, are you doing this to spite Sam? As her secretary, I know a bit about my boss's personal life. I even helped pick out gifts for Sam. Though I've never met Sam, he must be special for Nancy to care so much. Nancy looked at me, her voice flat. He's not worth it. Gary, you'll understand later. I usually obey my boss. She's the one signing my paycheck after all. But I sensed a trace of regret in Nancy's eyes just now, which didn't fit her powerful CEO persona. After parting ways with Nancy, I went back to my little apartment. In my time with Gloria, we didn't fully live together, so I got this place for myself. Back home, the first thing I did was delete and block all of Gloria's contacts. From now on, she goes her way, I go mine. Wait, hang on. Suddenly, I remembered my path now includes Nancy. She mentioned giving me a week to adjust. Then I'd have to move in with her. Thinking about spending almost 24 hours a day with her boss in the day. Then what at night? I felt a bit uneasy. I wondered why Nancy suggested a marriage of convenience. Was it also just to get back at Sam? I'd only been her secretary for a month and barely knew her. Yet I agreed. Thinking about Nancy's strikingly beautiful face, maybe I was seduced by her looks? Lost in thought, my phone suddenly rang. An unknown number. Gary, did you block me? Gloria's forced voice came through the line. I could almost picture her angry face. That's how she was. In our time together, a bit of playfulness from me felt like I was acting out, and she'd immediately get upset. Yet, she's blind when Charles throws a tantrum around her. Before yesterday, I put up with that, coaxing her, but now, yeah, we're done. Why keep you in my contacts? My mocking tone only fired up Gloria more. Can you stop being childish? If you want the certificate, get it tomorrow. I laughed in disbelief. Gloria, you aren't the only woman in the world. You've missed your chance. I hung up immediately, blocking her again. It was seamless. The next day, as I headed out for work, a car pulled up as I left my apartment complex. A familiar car, it was Gloria's. She got out of the car and walked up to me, starting right off with a question. Gary, are you done with your drama? Could you grow up a bit? Blocking people is so childish. I just rolled my eyes. Gloria, did you forget? We already broke up. Gloria gave me a long stare, like she just realized I wasn't kidding. Charles was really sick yesterday. I was just taking care of him. If that's why you're mad, I'm sorry. Her apologies have always been half-hearted. I still don't know how I put up with it for 2 years. I sighed quietly, feeling a bit sorry for my past self. I looked at her. Gloria, you and Charles, we both know what's up. As your ex-boyfriend, I'd advise you to open your eyes. Move aside. Gary, what do you mean? What did Charles ever do to you? He's just a friend. Sure enough, he's the one she defends no matter what I say. I shrugged and moved to flag down a taxi. Just then, a black Maserati pulled up next to me. The driver got out quickly and approached me, speaking respectfully. Miss has something to attend to today. She asked me to pick you up for work. Took me a few seconds to realize he meant Nancy. The whole quick marriage thing clearly surprised me. I almost forgot I got hitched yesterday. Before I could respond, Gloria looked at the driver in shock and asked, "What did you just call him?" The driver glanced at her. "He's my boss's husband. Of course, I call him sir." Gloria looked even more stunned. "Gary, when did you get married?" "Yesterday." I calmly said the words and got into the car, ignoring Gloria. This news must have been a blow to her since she always thought she had me wrapped around her finger. Like I couldn't do better. Even though she'd ditch me during dates for Charles, I'd still end up forgiving her. Not this time, though. Back at the office, I got straight into work mode. I sorted out all the files Nancy needed to approve and handed them to her assistant, Selena. Selena didn't take the files but smiled as she said, "Gary, from now on, you take them in yourself." But I hesitated. When I was promoted to the position of executive assistant, Selena laid down the rules, including the one about not just waltzing into Nancy's office. That's what Nancy instructed. "You can go in and out freely now," Selena explained, her tone a bit suggestive. She must have known about Nancy and I getting the marriage license. All right then. I reluctantly knocked on Nancy's door and walked in with the files. I hadn't figured out how to handle this new wife-boss dynamic yet. Behind the large desk, Nancy was intently focused on her work. I set the files down quickly and was about to slip out when, "Gary." Her cool, clear voice stopped me. I took a deep breath, put on a professional smile, and turned around. "Nancy, the files are on your desk. Anything else you need?" Nancy put down her pen and leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms and giving me a curious look. I reached up and touched my face. "I shaved this morning. Hope I didn't miss any spots." After a moment, Nancy spoke leisurely. "Did you have breakfast?" I caught on quickly. "Do you want me to get some breakfast?" "I can do that." I've done breakfast runs for her a few times at Selena's insistence. Nancy smirked a little. "You really are a good employee, Gary. I guess I must be. Otherwise, why would Nancy suddenly promote me to be her assistant? I'm not being modest here since I can't figure out another reason. I originally applied for a design position but ended up getting offered the executive assistant role. If the pay hadn't doubled, I wouldn't have taken the job. Nancy's eyes glinted as she pointed to the coffee table. "There's breakfast there for you." I was puzzled, not sure what she meant. She patiently explained, "Your stomach problems come from skipping meals, especially breakfast. That breakfast is for you. Eat up." Breakfast from my boss? I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. How did she know about my stomach issues? So I asked, Nancy, how do you know I have stomach problems? And how do you know I skip breakfast? She replied casually, shouldn't I know the basics about my assistant? Then she added, Gary, don't you forget you're not just my employee now, you're also the guy on my marriage certificate. I don't want to lose my husband just after getting married. Her words were blunt, but they tugged at something in me. My eyes felt a bit misty. I was with Gloria for 2 years, and she never noticed my stomach troubles or reminded me to eat on time. I remember once I was in real pain and called her to get me some meds. She just said, get them yourself, I'm busy, and hung up. Later, I found out she was picking Charles up from the airport during that so-called urgent matter. I knew then in Gloria's life, I'd always come second to Charles. Maybe she only stayed with me because Charles wasn't around back then. I was just a placeholder. Gary? Nancy's soft fragrance brought me back. Her face was so close. My heart skipped. Yes, Nancy? What's up? When Nancy startled me like that, all those pent-up emotions I had just vanished. She lightly tapped me on the forehead, saying, what are you daydreaming about? Hurry up and eat your breakfast. That little action made my face warm up a bit. I instinctively glanced toward the door, worried that it wouldn't look good if someone came in and saw us. Even though I'm married to Nancy, I still don't want people at the company to know. Otherwise, who knows how many would gossip behind our backs. Nancy noticed my cautious demeanor and frowned a bit. Relax, she said, not just anyone can come into my office. I walked quickly to the coffee table, picking up the breakfast. I'll take it back to my desk to eat. Gary, you're taking breakfast out of my office. Aren't you worried people might get the wrong idea? I froze for a second. Yeah, probably. So, I awkwardly sat back down on the sofa, grinning sheepishly. Maybe I'll eat it here first. Nancy seemed satisfied and went back to her desk, immersed in her files. Right then, the office felt almost too quiet, making me eat slowly, being careful not to chew too loudly and break the tranquility. I've got to admit, the breakfast Nancy prepared really fits my taste. She seems to have a knack for knowing what I like. Without realizing, I glanced up at the woman behind the desk. She was so composed and efficient, not to mention incredibly beautiful. I've seen male coworkers practically drool over her. Before, I just saw her as my boss and didn't think much of it. But watching her closely like this, she really is quite attractive. It's hard to believe I actually married her. She must have felt my gaze because she looked up at me. I quickly looked away, quickly finishing up what was left of my breakfast. Nancy, I'm done. I'll head back to work. As I reached the door, her gentle voice drifted over. Let's have dinner together tonight. Without agreeing or declining, I made a quick exit. I just couldn't handle being called honey. Back when I was with Gloria, it was always me chasing after her. Now I'm being treated this way by my boss, and I can't quite get used to it. Time flew by and soon it was time to clock out. I wrapped up my work by 7. I glanced over at the CEO's office, its lights still on. I wondered when she'd be done for the day. Would she even remember our dinner plan from this morning? Then again, if she forgot, that'd be fine too. Being around Nancy too long makes my heart race. Just at that moment, an alert popped up. It was a message from Nancy. Wait for me in the parking lot. With a resigned sigh, I made my way to the parking lot. Gary, waiting for someone? At the elevator lobby in the parking lot, I ran into Melody from the marketing department. I nodded, yeah. Her eyes gleamed. Gary, when are you free to grab dinner with me? I frowned. Since I joined the company, Melody's been trying to ask me out. I've turned her down multiple times, yet she persists. I know how she feels, but just as I was about to refuse, my phone rang. Seeing Nancy's name on the caller ID, I quickly answered. Hello? Exit B? Okay, I'm heading over. Hanging up, I nodded a brief goodbye to Melody and hurried to exit B. There was the Maserati from this morning. I got in the passenger seat. Nancy glanced at me. Gary is quite the popular one. Huh? Why the sarcasm? After a beat, I realized she'd seen me talking to Melody. No way. Nancy, are you jealous? Emboldened by this, I even addressed her by her full name. Nancy let out a faint humph but didn't answer, instead starting the car. But I saw a momentary stiffness in her, like she'd been called out. Does she feel something for me? The restaurant we went to was a 5-star place. Living the life with a big shot, I guess. While waiting for the food, I took a bathroom break. Coming out, I saw Nancy on a call across the hall, just hanging up. As I was about to head over to her, a familiar figure bumped into her. Looked accidental enough, but wasn't that Charles? Sorry, he said, his voice dripping with feigned charm that gave me goosebumps. Nancy took a step back, giving him a cold stare. Trying to play it smooth, Charles asked, "Hi, can I add you?" With a cool demeanor, Nancy simply said no, and walked away. Charles stood there, visibly frustrated. Watching this, I smirked. Charles was clearly trying to flirt. I wonder how Gloria would feel about that, considering Charles is her idealized first love. Back at the table, the food had arrived, and to my surprise, it was all stuff I liked. Nancy seems to know me very well. We were halfway through dinner when a familiar voice interrupted. "Gary, what are you doing here?" I didn't even need to look to know it was Charles. Then Gloria chimed in, angry as ever. "Gary, is it because of another woman that you want to break up with me?" I thought I could just ignore them, but with their accusations, I couldn't help but retort. "Where I am and what I do are none of your business." Playing the innocent, Charles said, "But this is a 5-star couples restaurant, and you're with another woman?" Unfazed, I replied, "What, is this place yours? Think I can't afford to eat here or hang out with other women?" Gloria's face darkened at how I talked about her first love. "Gary, you're in the wrong. Do you have to be so aggressive? Who is this woman with you? That's not something you're entitled to know." A detached voice broke the silence. Nancy, who'd been facing away from us, slowly turned around, her icy gaze sweeping over both of them. Seeing Nancy, Charles froze, and his smirk of amusement slowly turned into envy. The girl he'd just tried hitting on. How did she end up here? Gloria was clearly a bit shaken by the cold vibe around Nancy. I walked over to Nancy, took her hand, and said with a light laugh, "Let me introduce you to my wife, Nancy." "What? Isn't Nancy your boss?" Gloria was shocked. She thought this woman looked a bit familiar. She remembered seeing her at a gala. Nancy was the CEO of F Group. Then it hit me, I once mentioned to Gloria about getting hired as Nancy's secretary. Back then, she brushed it off with, "People like that must just see your capabilities." She never imagined I had any appeal that could interest someone like Nancy. What she overlooked was that I was a recognized heartthrob back in school. Nancy looked down at me and calmly said, "Yes, I'm Gary's boss, but I'm also his wife now. Since Gloria knows who I am, she should know better than to bother my husband." Nancy didn't even glance at Gloria. Sure, Gloria came from money, but she didn't compare to Nancy. She held back her irritation and just glared at me. Charles clenched his fists. Wasn't Gary supposed to marry Gloria yesterday? How did he end up marrying Nancy? He was still struggling to believe my luck. I said coolly, "And really, I should thank you. If you hadn't been keeping Gloria busy yesterday, I might have missed my chance with Nancy." I paused, raising an eyebrow, although, "Charles, you do seem to have quite the interest in women I'm with." I pulled out my phone, tapped a few times, and handed it to Gloria. "Gloria, take a look at the innocent, kind-hearted guy you think you know." I hadn't wanted to take it this far, but Charles really had to poke the bear. This video caught him trying to flirt with Nancy. Charles leaned in to look, eyes widening. Gloria wasn't naive. She realized what Charles might have been up to with Nancy. But maybe because she wanted to save face or she genuinely trusted Charles, she looked at me with a sour expression. "Gary, I know what Charles is like. You think that video proves anything?" Hearing her words, you'd think everything was my fault. From her perspective, I'd been unfaithful. Real funny. In hindsight, I was out of my mind for ever liking her. Charles let out a sigh of relief, a flash of satisfaction passing through his eyes. He knew Gloria would always back him. I snickered, Gloria, however you choose to see things, it doesn't matter anymore. I've given my blessing to you and Charles, and I'm married now. Let's all just live well in our own ways and pretend we're strangers if we meet again. Gloria was about to say something, but Nancy coldly interrupted. Gloria, before yesterday's marriage registration, Gary and I were just superior and subordinate. We don't owe you an explanation, but I won't stand for anyone smearing my husband. After saying that, she picked up her bag and took my hand. Let's go, she said. I let her lead me out of the restaurant. It had been a long time since anyone stood up for me. In that moment, my worn-out heart found a bit of peace and maybe a bit of excitement. A week flew by. Slowly, I got used to being married to Nancy. She didn't treat me any differently at work because of our relationship. But at home, she was truly a great wife, attentive and thoughtful. I realized I got pretty lucky. If I hadn't been stood up at the marriage bureau that day, I wouldn't have ended up marrying Nancy. Still, I couldn't figure out, had Nancy also been stood up that day and decided to marry me out of spite? I asked her once. She just smiled and said it wasn't the time to talk about it. After that, I didn't press it. According to our arrangement, I moved into Nancy's villa. But she left on a business trip right away, so there was no awkwardness in starting to live together. Even when she was away, she was punctual in reminding me to eat on time. Lately, my stomach issues hadn't flared up. After work today, I went back to my small apartment to pack a few things for the villa. Just as I stepped out of the apartment, a cool autumn breeze hit, slightly chilling. I went to hail a cab at the corner and suddenly noticed someone behind me, getting closer. About to quicken my pace, a hand grabbed me. I yelled out in alarm. Gary, it's me. It was Gloria's voice. Startled, I looked up, and sure enough, there was Gloria. Gloria, what are you doing here? I've been waiting for you for days. Finally caught you. She stared at me, her breath carrying a strong scent of alcohol. I frowned, shaking off her grip forcefully. We've broken up, Gloria. What do you want? Gary, you were right. Charles fooled me. He's just been searching for someone wealthier. So Gloria had doubts after the video, and maybe she even sleuthed Charles a bit. I raised an eyebrow, congrats on figuring him out. But what's that got to do with me? Gloria looked crestfallen. I'm sorry, Gary. Can we not break up? Hearing that made me laugh. Was her first love letting her down what it took for her to see my worth? Gloria, I'm married now. Even if I weren't, we wouldn't have a shot. Ask yourself, these past 2 years, did you really like me? Or was I just Charles's stand-in for you? In her heart, it's always been Charles. I was just too foolish, moved by her calling me Gary over and over. Gloria was quiet for a moment, then grabbed my hand and said, Gary, I've thought about it. I like you. I just didn't realize that I'd fallen for you. So what? Her sudden confession didn't stir me. You say you like me, and I'm supposed to like you back? Please don't look for me again. I don't want my wife getting the wrong idea. Hearing this, Gloria's eyes turned bloodshot, and her grip on my hand tightened. I tried hard to shake it off, but couldn't. Fear crept in. Gloria let go. Suddenly, Gloria was pushed away with force, nearly stumbling to the ground. It was Nancy. Seeing her brought me instant peace. Nancy squinted at Gloria. I warned you not to bother my husband again. Gloria wiped her smudged face, thanks to the alcohol, and faced Nancy with newfound courage. Gary is my fiancé. You're the one who intruded. I chuckled, not holding back. Gloria, isn't this acting all sincere now a bit ridiculous? I married Nancy. I'm her husband, and you should move along and stop showing up and causing trouble for us. With that, I pulled Nancy away, leaving Gloria frozen on the spot. In the car, I hesitated before speaking. I came to pick up something. I have no idea how Gloria wound up there. Regardless of whether Nancy would overthink it, I opted to clarify to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. Nancy hummed softly, I know. As long as you're all right. Her simple words warmed my heart. She'd come to find me first thing after her trip. It feels nice to be someone's priority. Nancy, can I hug you? Without waiting for her answer, I leaned in and hugged her tight. At that moment, she was simply my wife, not my boss. She momentarily stiffened before loosely wrapping her arms around me, whispering, "Gary, you've got me now, always." Her tone was decisive, with a trace of relief. No woman's ever said that to me before. I can hear my heartbeat like a drum. If I weren't thinking clearly, I'd think Nancy had been into me for quite a while. The weekend. I was at home planning to do some drawing. I majored in design in college but hadn't picked up a pencil in ages. I called Nancy to ask if I could use her study. "Nancy, I want to draw a bit. Can I use your study?" She hesitated for a moment on the other end before saying, "The room next to my study, you can use it." "Sure." "Hey, when will you be back?" "Soon." "Want some dessert?" "I can bring you some." I was startled, then smiled. "If it's no trouble, I'd love that. I do enjoy sweets. I just didn't think Nancy had noticed." After hanging up, I grabbed my drawing supplies and headed to the room Nancy mentioned. I've been here about 2 weeks and hadn't stepped into that room before. Opening the door, I was taken aback. It was a full-on art studio, filled with supplies. None had been opened, though. Does Nancy enjoy painting too? As her assistant, I knew her basic info by heart, but her hobbies didn't include painting. The studio was incredibly inviting. I lost track of time getting absorbed in my work. I didn't notice the door opening until Nancy came in, holding a dessert box and a bouquet of yellow roses. "Are you finished?" I set down my brush and faced her. "Yeah, it's been a while. I'm a bit rusty." Nancy looked over my work, smiling slightly. "Not bad. You haven't lost your touch." Her words slipped past as I eyed what she was holding. "Are these flowers for me?" "Of course, they're for my husband." Nancy handed me the flowers, placed the dessert on a table beside us, and said, "You can have a little dessert now, dinner's soon." Holding the bouquet, the sweet scent engulfed me, and I couldn't help but smile. "Thanks. So this is what being cherished feels like." The dessert was a tasty strawberry cake. Definitely my favorite flavor. "Nancy, you're a boss who really understands your employees." She simply smiled, "Only you." My cheeks flushed instantly, and I quickly switched topics. "How come there's an art studio at home? Do you paint too?" Her eyes sparkled with a hint of playfulness. "I don't paint." "Then why?" "Made it for you," she said calmly. I pressed my lips together. If even now I didn't sense anything, I'd be a total fool. I looked up at her. "How did you know I paint?" "I'm pretty sure I didn't put that on my resume." Nancy calmly replied, "You initially applied to the design department. Those in design tend to paint. The studio's set up for oil painting. How'd you know that's what I like?" I peered at her, hoping to see something in her expression, but she remained so composed. She just softly said, "Wait a bit more. I'll tell you." Then after a pause, she added, "Gary, the University of A's reunion is next week. Include it in my schedule." With that, she left the studio. Took me a moment to register what she'd said. Nancy went to university at 2? But surely, someone like her would have been a big deal in school. How'd I never hear about it? A few days later, University A's reunion day. Initially, I hadn't planned on attending, but since Nancy was invited back, I'd accompany her as her assistant. After checking some info, I discovered that F Group donates a lot to the university. No wonder they made Nancy a special guest. Since graduating, I haven't gone back to school for a long time. Taking advantage of Nancy and the others talking with the principal, I strolled around the campus by myself. Wouldn't you know it, I ran into Charles again. But honestly, it's not surprising, considering he's also a student at a university. I turned my eyes away, pretending not to see him, and tried to go another way. But he saw me and came right up, nothing like the weakling he was around Gloria. He shouted aggressively at me, "Gary, did you say something to Gloria? Is that why she's not talking to me lately?" I frowned. So it wasn't just the booze talking when Gloria wanted to get back with me. She really wanted to ditch Charles. I curled my lip sarcastically. "You know what you've done behind Gloria's back." "She's not dumb." Charles was so mad he was practically shaking. "It's your fault," he said. "If you hadn't shown that video to Gloria, she wouldn't be doubting me. Gary, you did it on purpose just to get back at me. I smirked. Charles, Gloria is just a woman I didn't want. Why would I waste time exacting revenge on you? Don't overestimate your importance. Charles's usually delicate face twisted with anger. Then, thinking of something, he sneered, "You're only with a rich woman now. Do you think someone like Nancy really cares about you? She's just playing with you. How do you know I don't genuinely care for my husband?" A cold voice cut in. Nancy walked over, linking her arm with mine. Her gaze was icy as she looked at Charles and said slowly, word by word, "I have only loved one person my whole life, and that's my husband." Both Charles and I were taken aback by her words. Charles's expression froze, bitterness clearly etched in his eyes. Even if he wanted to use tricks to lure Nancy, it seemed unlikely now. And somehow, in Nancy's words, I began to understand something I'd missed before. "Nancy, did you know me way back then?" Nancy chuckled lightly, not answering directly. Instead, she said, "Let me take you somewhere." With Charles glaring at us, Nancy and I walked away, hand in hand. Nancy led me to a university's art studio. I knew this place well. During my 4 years at college, I spent all my spare time here painting. I tilted my head slightly and asked, "How do you know this place? Were you really a student at a university?" Nancy nodded. "But I only stayed for half a year before heading abroad." I suddenly understood. No wonder I'd never heard of you. Someone like you would have been a sensation on campus. Nancy laughed softly. "Someone like what?" I racked my brain for words. "Beautiful, capable, like an otherworldly fairy. So that's how I appear in your mind." Nancy lowered her gaze, her eyes burning into me. She gently said, 6 years ago, I met a boy here, one who shone even brighter." An image flickered in my mind, and I asked, stunned, "That boy wouldn't be me, would it?" But I'm sure I'd never seen her before. Nancy didn't answer. She seemed lost in her memories. She continued, almost to herself, "One day I happened to pass by the studio. I looked inside through the window, and there was a boy in a white shirt, wearing headphones, completely absorbed in his painting. The sunlight streamed in through the window, casting a glow on him. That's when I realized such a boy existed at school. The second time I saw him was at the freshman welcome party. He played a guitar piece. It was beautiful, and that's how I found out his name was Gary. At that time, I was indeed quite popular at school, and after the party, many freshmen were eager to know me. But he seemed not to notice. After that, I often took detours past the studio. I saw him many times, always lost in his own world, as if nothing else mattered. By now, my eyes were misty, my voice choking up. "And then? Did you just leave for abroad?" Nancy snapped back to the present, looking deep into my eyes. "Yes, my plan was already set. But meeting you was unexpected. Even after I left, thoughts of you lingered in my mind for 5 whole years." Her words felt like a hand squeezing my heart, tears welling up uncontrollably, blurring my vision. I knew I was good-looking, with all the compliments and love letters I received growing up. But having someone care for 5 years? That kind of affection I never imagined or dared to. I looked up, almost breathless, and said, "Nancy, why didn't you ever reach out to me?" Nancy gently wiped the tears from my eyes, a slight rasp in her voice. "When I came back, Gloria was already with you. I had no choice but to hide my feelings. But when you applied to F Group and got the job, maybe fate gave me another chance. I sniffled, so you made me your secretary on purpose. I thought I got promoted because I was capable." Nancy laughed softly, tapping my nose. "Promoting you was partly because of my feelings, but you did meet the requirements. Without HR's approval, your resume wouldn't have reached me. And that time at the Civil Affairs Bureau? Who did you plan on marrying? If you still cared for me, why agree to marry someone else?" Nancy smiled knowingly. "Don't you get it yet? Why would I ever marry anyone else before you?" When I realized my feelings, it was already a runaway train. I was stunned for a while before I figured it out. My heart started racing as I asked in a shaky voice, "Did you go looking for me that day?" Nancy's eyes burned with intensity. "I didn't think Gloria was right for you. I went to stop your wedding, but Gloria left you hanging." So? It all seemed like a coincidence, but it was part of her long-standing plan. This seemingly cold woman had harbored feelings for the boy from back then. Her love aged like fine wine, growing stronger over the years. I took a step forward, wrapped my arms around her waist, and kissed her lips. "Nancy, thank you for not giving up on me. I used to think Gloria liked me, at least until Charles came back. She treated me well. But now, with a comparison, I realized Gloria only cared because Charles and I share the name Chen. I was obsessed with Gloria and didn't see the gaze lingering behind me. Looking back, I was foolish beyond help. Thankfully, Nancy didn't give up. Nancy wiped my tears, kissed my brows with utmost gentleness, and said, "Gary, I finally married my boy." She took my hand, her slender fingers interlocking with mine, and led us out of the art studio. The autumn sun shone upon us, stretching our shadows. Later that night, after getting home, Nancy went to the study. After I showered, I picked up my phone, replied to some messages, and checked out my social feed. Suddenly, I saw a rare post from Nancy. It was a picture of my back on campus that said, "Dreams fulfilled." Curious, I clicked on her profile, surprised to find she hadn't been inactive, just that I was blocked from seeing them. Her first post was a photo of me in the art studio with the caption, "He really seems to love painting." My hand trembled as I scrolled quickly through each post. 5 years of emptiness. 2 years ago, another photo of my back with the text, "It's been 5 years, and I've finally seen him again." But there was someone else by his side. He seemed to like her quite a bit. I kept scrolling until I found the post from our wedding day. "I finally married my boy." Since then, her posts were all about our daily life, yet I never noticed. My eyes blurred, tears streaming uncontrollably, with a heaviness in my chest that made breathing difficult. All these years, she had always been watching me quietly from afar, too afraid to disturb when she saw someone else with me. But she's Nancy, the CEO of F Group, meant to be dazzling and admired. Yet, for me, she was so timid. I stood up and headed straight to the study. When I opened the door, Nancy looked up at me, noticing my red eyes. She immediately walked towards me. I rushed into her arms, holding her tightly. Nancy hugged me back, her voice hoarse. "Why the tears?" Still on the verge of crying, I said, "Nancy, why were you so silly and never told me? If I had really married Gloria that day, what would you have done?" Nancy knew I saw her posts. She gently stroked my back, whispering, "As long as you're happy, nothing else matters." I lifted my tear-stained eyes to look at her and smiled. "From now on, I only like you." The last time I saw Gloria was at a banquet I attended with Nancy. She called out to me and I had to stop. The man next to her wasn't Charles. I heard Charles became the boyfriend of some rich lady. She looked at me with a complicated expression. "Gary, how have you been?" I gave her a casual glance. "Without you and Charles around, I'm doing great." Gloria frowned, eyeing my confident demeanor, and asked, unconvinced, "Is Nancy good to you?" I chuckled. "Gloria, I really have to thank you for not marrying me. It gave me the chance to be Nancy's husband. I'm very happy. So please, don't disturb me anymore." Saying that, I walked over to Nancy, took her hand, and softly said, "Let's go home." Nancy looked back at Gloria, who was still staring, and gently replied, "Okay."